afternoon or evening to our audience. I wanted to introduce our guest. This is Karen Curry Parker. Karen is a human design expert who developed a system to help explore the relationship between quantum physics and human design. She is the creator of Quantum Conversations, a successful podcast with over 70,000 downloads in less than 12 months, and two systems of human design, Quantum Human Design and Quantum Alignment System. Multiple news outlets, radio shows, and telesummits have featured her work and their programs, or on their programs, rather, excuse me. Karen is also the author of numerous best-selling books, all designed to help you create the life that you were designed to live and find and embrace the purpose of your existence. Welcome, Karen. We are excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. We've got good things to talk about.
Absolutely. Yes.
I am so excited. I think excited even is an understatement, because as much as we are putting on this show for our audience, but I feel like I am all about learning from you of like, how do I create the life that I desire of my dreams via, right, the quantum physics that I'm so fascinated about. So can't wait to get into it with you, Karen.
It's not that hard. It's good. You'll get to it.
That's good, because I think that those words sound a little scary potentially to some of our audience, or at least to me. So I want to learn more about quantum physics and human design and how it can be simple. And I look forward to that. So let's get started. And if you could just share a little bit about your story and tell us more about who you are and what inspired you to do what you're doing.
I like
loaded question, huh?
It's a loaded question, and I'm old, so I'll say, just in the name of sort of keeping it succinct, I feel like I'm a little bit of an unusual person in the sense that most of my clients and most of the people I work with really have a journey of transformation that involves kind of having a more mainstream life, and then kind of waking up to it, to the fact that they feel uncomfortable in that mainstream life. Mm-hmm. I never could get in the mainstream, much to the disappointment of my parents from the very beginning. I always joke I've been on the same trajectory since I was 4, and I'm not really making that up. That being said, because I've had I think the really unusual blessing of being pretty clear about my purpose from the start, it has allowed me to tap into some pretty magical unfoldings from the very beginning of my career. So I'll say that my career has been certainly very multifaceted. I started off as a nurse. I started off as a child development specialist and a journalist all at the same time. So I was always sort of stepping between these different worlds. And certainly my journey more as a mother really brought me to an understanding that if I was going to, first of all, demonstrate for my children, which was huge, what does it look like to follow your passion and your purpose, and to do it well, and to do it in a way that is harmonious and allows you to still be present to the things that are important to you outside of your purpose, if you will, or as in conjunction with your purpose. And if I was going to really do work that would help lay the foundation for a world where people got to live in alignment with who they really are, then I had to show up in my full authentic expression. And as soon as I really made that decision to really be that way, I stumbled across human design. And I say it that way because it was a very strange journey where my husband at the time actually brought a chart home to me. He had gone on a spiritual retreat in Sedona, Arizona. I saw the chart. I immediately cried because I knew there was something so powerful in that chart for me. We put our house on the market like within 2 weeks, sold almost everything we had, put the kids, I had 4 kids at the time, put the kids in the car, drove to Sedona, Arizona, arrived in Sedona. And as soon as we got there, my son had an ear infection. So I took him to the doctor. I came out of the doctor with this kit on my hip, looked across the hallway, and there was a door. And on the door was the human design symbol. So I opened up the door, went in, and they immediately hired me for a job. And that was sort of the beginning of my career, studying and learning about human design. So here we are 22 years later. So
What a story. That's incredible.
Short,
That's
short
incredible.
Wow.
version.
Huh?
Short version.
Short version?
Yeah.
All right, all right. Well, then how about this? If you could maybe expand upon some of your biggest challenges
Mm.
and how are you able to get past them so that you could achieve success?
I think that the biggest challenge that I not always, but that I really had to learn how to span was, I was a single mom for a lot of years, and learning how to be an entrepreneur and still be available to drive kids home in the afternoon and fix family dinner and make sure everybody got their homework done. That took a lot of art and creativity, and certainly forced me to have to get incredibly focused and organized, which in hindsight I'm really grateful for, but at the time it was stressful.
Mhm.
I'd say the second challenge that went hand in hand was that I had full-time support and custody of my kids, so it meant I had full-time money for my kids, and money for many, many, many years as an entrepreneur was something that was not easy, and really, um, I think at any point in time in my entrepreneurial journey, I could have quit because I could have probably made better money, at least at a certain point in the journey, doing something else, even if I'd gone back to work as a nurse. But because, as I said, I felt so driven to show my children it's possible to pursue your passion, it's possible to live in alignment, it's possible to build a sustainable way of being in the world, a supported way of being in the world. I couldn't quit because I never wanted to give them the message that it wasn't possible. So there were definitely a lot of very scary lean years in there for sure.
So for those of us are not familiar, I know this much about human design. So would you be open to sharing what is human design and how is that related to quantum physics, if it even is related?
Well, so human design is a personality assessment system. It is a synthesis of Eastern and Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Hindu chakra system, Judaic Kabbalah, and quantum physics. Really, what it is, I like this kind of how I explain it. It's sort of a Rolodex, if you will, of ancient and modern cross-cultural archetypes. It's just a very systematic and beautiful way to understand how you use the power of what you believe about yourself, your story that you tell about who you are, as an important tool or as an important focus to help you create what you want. So this system, very much like traditional astrology, uses your birthday, birth time, and birthplace. You plug it into a computer program, thank God, because we used to do it by hand. And it spits out this weird looking chart that's a triangle. It's got all these geometric shapes and lines on it. And really that chart is just simply a map, if you will. It's a map or a blueprint that doesn't necessarily show you who you are per se. That's sort of in it. Most importantly, it shows you the mechanics of how you operate. So what your human design chart shows you is what's your best way of working so that you sustain your energy. What's the best way that you get into relationships so that your relationships are really respectful and honoring and really reflect your value back to you. What's your best way of maintaining health and vitality? What's your best way of contributing to the world? So it gives you a lot of mechanical advice. And so I always say to people, it's really a complementary tool. And I really stress that because it's definitely not going to replace Enneagram or DISC, or I used to use Myers-Briggs with my coaching clients. It's not going to replace traditional astrology, but it's a tool that allows you to translate all that stuff that you get from these more traditional systems into a process that teaches you how. So you might get your life purpose, let's say, from your astrology. Your human design will say, here's your purpose, here's how you go about living it and bringing it into your life in a very conscious and deliberate way.
So you had shared that there's a reason, there's a method to our madness with the questions that we're asking you. Is as Stephanie asked about your challenges in your business, and one of the things you shared is that, you know, is it's making that the money and earning the revenue and or income. So now that you have been working with human design and understanding, you know, quantum physics in that way, what is it different now in your way of operating than when you were operating in that place where making money was hard?
Oh, totally. So one of the things that human design teaches us to do so brilliantly is, and basically it's really about first moving from this very basic idea. The basic idea of human design is that we are designed to be abundant, to be vital, to be loved, to be valued, to be creative. And that for us to really live in that way, we have to know how we interface, if you will, with life's intelligence flowing through us. So we are all coming through us is a source of information that can give us the keys, the cues, the clues that we need to make the next right step in our life. What happens to us is when we're born, we're conditioned, we're trained, right? Our parents tell us these are the rules for success. This is the formula for success. We go to school, we're told, here's the box, get in the box, basically, right?
Yes.
And when we start to live from this conditioned way of being, it oftentimes cuts us off from our connection to that intelligence of life, if you will, or you can call it consciousness, or you can call it God, you can call it whatever you want. It disconnects us oftentimes from that natural place of pure creativity and pure connection to abundance. It takes time, and this was my big challenge with money. It takes time sometimes to unwind our thinking, our ways of creating, our ways of being out of those places where we were told that it wasn't okay for us to be who we are and how we are. And one of the things that I learned over the years of wrestling with money, or one of the things maybe I'll say that I had to heal personally as part of my challenge with money, is I really had to master my own sense of value. I couldn't ask people to value me enough to pay me for my services if I didn't value myself first. And you know, and it wasn't such an easy process, even though I might have even cognitively known that on a certain level. It took a little bit of unwinding, if you will, or deconditioning is the term we use in human design, to really get myself to a place where I could say, hey, you know, I have a unique role in the world. It's a role that only I can play, as does everyone else. We all have a unique and vital place in the world. And the more that I could really live true to that role and honor that role and value that role and respect that role, the better I could do in the world of business. Because really, the world of business isn't really about business. It's about manifesting the full expression of your value in the marketplace. And that value is really derived from how good are you at helping people transform pain into something beautiful, into something that connects them with their power, connects them with their own sense of worth, reconnects them back to an inner sense of integrity so that they can really then fulfill for themselves their own place of abundance. And, you know, as much as I wish it was easy for me, I think, you know, probably like most of my clients, it took a while to train myself to remember that piece.
Sure. Well, you know, they say that, you know, and I can appreciate what you were just talking about. Dee Dee and I happened to be talking about this earlier today. And, you know, the mindset and the mind shift from, you know, from scarcity to abundance, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But it also goes to what you were just saying. And I please correct me if I'm wrong in what I heard, but, you know, it's hard work, right? Mm-hmm. Anything worth achieving in this life, whether it's, you know, professional or personal or through our health, is hard work. And so it's about determination. And then, like you've been talking about, it's about mindset, right? And not quitting, and having the power and the, you know, and the wherewithal to move forward, right? To move
totally forward. Totally. And I might even invite us into even a little bit of a different reframe, because I think what happens sometimes is we do define it as hard work. And I think because we define it as hard work, and here, it's going to take me a second to unpack this, but it's really important.
Okay.
When we look at what stops most people, particularly in business, a lot of what stops us in business is actually burnout. We don't have the energy to do the things we need to do, especially because a lot of times when we're starting a business, we're starting it on the side, right? We have a day job, we're doing this thing on the side, hoping to build it up so that we can move from one to the other. And what we don't realize is that when we're not being true to who we are, if you're living an authentic life, it actually sucks the energy out of you. It actually takes a lot. It takes more energy to hold up a fake mask and be someone you're not than it does to take that leap to be courageous enough to reveal the person behind the mask. But we don't know that. And so when we arrive on the doorstep of business or marketing or making money, and we say it's hard work, we shy away from it because we're like, well, I'm already tired. And so I think that the key is, yes, do your value, but also in conjunction with heal the value piece, you also have to find the passion piece. Sure. And when you find the passion piece, that passion is fire. And in fact, when we look at the archetype of passion in the chart, it's the 30th hexagram from the Chinese I Ching, or the 30th gate in human design, which is called the clinging fire. It's fire, and it's fire that brings energy. And it's the energy that does then give you the capacity to turn around and maybe not do the hard work, but rather to commit in a devoted way to doing the daily stuff that needs to happen to change the equation, to change the story, to change the outcome. I just don't want people to be afraid that it's hard.
No.
If you, and I'm only saying it's not because of you, I hear people talk a lot about it's hard. And I want to say that when you find the passion, it actually becomes easy, but it's finding the passion piece that sometimes is tricky because we're told, oh, you have a passion piece, but do that later when you retire. Do that when you've got all the bases covered. Do that. And we're told to put that off. And I really say, find the passion piece and don't put it off, because when you land on it, the fire and the energy you get from that connection gives you the strength and the power to do the rest.
Yeah. Thank you for that reframe. I mean, that it's amazing. Our words make all the difference, right? And so you just changed my mantra. So I appreciate that. I'm sure you did that for most of our audience as well. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for that so much, because anticipating what I want to learn about, human design, and of course, all of that is in relation to building a business, ultimately building the wealth. I love that you made that distinction between, it could be hard work if it's just all about the grind and like making the money. Because the whole topic is how to really build wealth by optimizing your health. And I really truly believe that it really all starts with ourselves. And health could be mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical. And so what we're speaking to is that really like mental and emotional health, of really understanding that we have a purpose to serve. And then last that is lit up, or that we're connected to it, then we don't have that motivation to do the work that we need to do to eventually be wealthy in whatever it is that we do. So I really love that you made that distinction. And the piece that you said was important was like, when we look at something being hard, meaning we don't get to do it in that full capacity because we're shying away from it. And even for me, when I'm thinking when something is hard, it's already hard. Like, why? Right. It's already hard. Like, why bother? And we really get to see that it's tenacity, the passion, and what the commitments that we get to invest in to get eventually, the results that we want in life. But what I love is, because I'm the same too, and ultimately putting on this show, is it going to really generate the money, quote unquote? Probably. Actually, it's costing us more money. But the piece here that is important for me to share is definitely that passion. And I know that I get to be who I am by putting on this show. Right? Like whether I believe the money is coming or not, I think it's connected more so to my passion of really serving and really allowing people to have their hands on this kind of information, because what you're sharing is not readily available to everyone.
Right. And I think, I just also sort of building on Stephanie's point, I think right now we live in a hack culture, right? We're all about what's the hack, what's the hack, what's the fast track to success, or and I keep joking, I'm old now, I'm a grandma, right? And
well, you don't look it.
Oh, thank you. But I'm looking back and I'm like, the enjoyment that I get at this stage of my career is built on 25 plus years of doing this work. And there's no workaround, there's no hack for being where I am now other than having the experience. And I'm not saying that from a way of being discouraging and saying you can't tap into the support and the success and the balance and the ability to really be authentic at an earlier age. You totally can. I'm saying that there's no workaround for the work. It's not necessarily hard, but it's a commitment, and I think we all owe it to ourselves to stop looking for the hack, because it's just cutting off our real creative essence and the real value of recognizing that if you're going to build a business, you totally can support yourself from the start. I am not saying that, but the depth of success and the depth of wisdom that you cultivate as part of the spiritual journey that is being a business person,
yes,
happens over time. And that's cool. It's beautiful. So don't quit in the beginning if it's not looking like you want it to be in the beginning. Keep growing at it and stay with it and commit and be devoted. And it's easy to do when you're passionate about it.
Right. Right.
So I love it. So let's really get into it. So let's say I'm fascinated. Maybe I'm asking this question for myself. So how do you work with clients? And I know it's a chart that you get to receive and things like that. So how do you work with clients, and what do your clients come to you for, and how all of that look like? What it all looks like.
So when I work with clients, and I don't actually see private clients anymore, but when I work with clients, one of the things that we start with looking at the human design chart, because that chart's going to tell me what's the potential. And then we start with, where are you at right now? What stories are you telling yourself about money, love, relationships, health, wellness, life purpose? Because those stories oftentimes are stories that are in subtle and sometimes overt ways holding you back. So we look very carefully at, where are you now? What narrative are you telling? We look at the chart, and then we consciously use the chart to start reframing that story. We talked about at the beginning the relationship between human design and quantum physics. Well, what we know from quantum physics is that you can, at any point in time, bring into your physical experience an infinite amount of potentials and options, right? And basically, your life story, the story you're living in right now, is a filter. And that filter really allows you to sort through the infinite options in the quantum field and pick the ones that are right for you. Thank God, right? Because if you weren't somewhat limited, we would be struggling with clarity even more than we already are now. And I would say that 90% of my clients are struggling because they're not clear, right? They don't know what to choose. They don't know what they want. Your human design really gives you a Rolodex, if you will, of what your life story is about. It helps you break that life story down into little archetypes. And then it gives you a really practical way to start looking at those archetypes. So for example, let's say one of the things we might see in the chart is that you are designed to have a soul curriculum that is about exploring the archetype of hermit. All archetypes appear on a spectrum, right? You can have, the low end of the hermit spectrum might mean that, you've retreated so far from life that you have no friends, you have no contact with the outer world, you live in a hut in the middle of a forest somewhere and you don't come out. I would say that's sort of the shadow of the hermit, right? The other side of the hermit spectrum might be, you really need alone time to regenerate, restock, replenish, recharge your battery, but you live in an environment where that's not possible. And so you're desperate for alone time, but you're not getting any, right? And so we start to explore that archetype in the context of, how's that playing in your life? Are you living out a healthy expression of that archetype? This archetype is showing me that you, through the lens of your chart, are a person who needs to have a certain amount of alone time for, contemplation and integration, because when you get that, then you're better able to really understand your life and your life experience. And then you have more to give the world, because now you've had the time to integrate all those experiences and learn from them and then share them with the world as a resource. So that chart actually is comprised of lots and lots and lots of different archetypes. But the beauty of it is it gives us then a systematic way of really working through all those little pieces. So the reason why I love it so much, and this is, I started off first as a life coach, and as I said before that, a nurse, before I met human design. So I had been a coach already for a few years when I met human design. And I already knew from working with people that the biggest bugaboo, if you will, the biggest hiccup in their creation process was not being true to who they are. But without a tool to really, systematically say, well, who are you then? When we were just sort of loosey-goosey trying to figure out, okay, what's the authentic self? It was kind of a moving target. And it's a moving target because our definition of our authentic self is so deeply conditioned. And oftentimes the identity that we hold, especially the identities that we hold that we connect to our own lovability and to our own value, if those aren't authentic identities, they're very scary to let go of, because we're afraid, like, if I stop believing this about myself, if I stop living out this false identity, I'm going to lose my value in the world. I'm going to lose the people who love me. And a lot of times people just didn't, they were there. It's hard to sort out, which one of the things that I think are my authentic self, am I thinking that because this is what I learned, because this got me love and attention? And how do I know what's the real me? So the chart is kind of, I'm going to use a word I'm not supposed to use. It's kind of a hack. It's not a hack, but it's a great tool to really
We'll stick with tool.
Yeah, we'll stick with tool. It's a really great tool to systematically say, okay, I've got hermit energy. I've got creator energy. I've got the energy for exploring resources through the lens of material wealth. I've got emotional wisdom. I've got, it gives you a very concrete way to then begin to explore, who are you really? And, when we go back to the quantum field and we start looking at, you have this filter, and this filter is the filter through which you're perceiving the infinite potentials. And it's through that filter that you're then pulling potentials into your physical reality. That filter is your story. Mm-hmm. And so if you're consciously crafting a story and healing a story that says, I'm abundant, I'm capable of great, of contributing great things to the world, I'm lovable, I'm powerful, I'm vital, I'm healthy, to use your term. If that's the narrative, then the meanings that we have that hold that narrative together become part of that filter. And then it makes it that much easier then for us to choose things consciously or unconsciously out of the quantum field and drop them into our physical reality that match that story. On a physiological level, because I have to add this point, what happens is when we encounter these archetypes or we experience these stories, the power of the imagination that gets triggered in response to these stories. So if I say, I'm a healthy hermit who understands that the depth of my wisdom and knowledge is best tapped and shared when I give myself adequate times for rest and renewal, self-generation, and recharging my battery. If that's your narrative, then what you start to do anytime you encounter those possibilities of needing that alone time, your mind creates a photon storm. You actually trigger a storm of light in your brain that creates neurotransmitters that then in turn create a matching frequency of emotional energy that in turn calibrates the heart and then begins to program you to notice what you need and give you opportunities that supports what you need. So there's a whole lot of complex things that happen in response to telling a good story about who you are. And as I said, human design is a great tool to help you figure out what that story should be.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
I'm entranced. I want to know more. This is so outside of the realm, it seems, of what we've been, discussing, and is, and again, so much outside of the realm of what many people do when it comes to health and wellness, and combining this idea of human nature and human design and mixing it with physical sciences, right? Not just social science, which I just find fascinating. In going along those lines, Karen, how can we find you? I know you said that you don't do individual coaching anymore. Am I correct? Did I hear that?
That's correct. Yeah.
So for those of us who can't get individual coaching, since you've moved beyond that, how can we find you? What resources do you have out there? Yeah, I mean, how can we tap into all of this information and knowledge that you are full of and want to share and have shared so far? This is just a tease. This is just a tease.
Hey, like I said, I'm old. I've been doing this a long time. So
you're wise and knowledgeable. So yeah, we want to hear it all. We want to know it all. How do we find you?
Awesome. All right. So the very first place that I recommend that people find us is go to freehumandesignchart.com. If you know your birthday, birth time, and birthplace, you can actually run your chart there. And when you run your chart, we actually start sending you a whole bunch of information to help you begin the process of interpreting it. Because if you just get this weird little chart, you're going to be like, what is this? So you'll get a series of videos and some little explanations to help you begin the process of interpreting it. I always recommend that once you really start to look at your design, it's really a great thing to go get a reading. A reading itself is going to give you a good, it's a great catalyst to help you start exploring the narratives you're telling about who you are and your story. If you go to our website, quantumalignmentsystem.com, you can actually find on that website a whole beautiful page full of the amazing people I've had the privilege of training. So there are some amazing practitioners and specialists there who really just put their heart and soul into really supporting you and helping you use that chart as a tool to tell your story. If you want to do more coaching and really go deeper into it, there are also what we call quantum alignment system practitioners on that page. And these are people who are really deeply trained in using the chart as a coaching tool to help you craft a better narrative if you're stuck in a story you don't like. Last but not least, if you want to find us on Instagram, it's at Karen Curry Parker, and same for Facebook. And those are also really great resources, especially if you already have your chart. We post all kinds of informational tidbits and we do little mini lessons on Instagram that you can follow along with your chart. And we have all kinds of video programs and free opportunities for you to really learn more about your chart there as well.
Oh, wow. Excellent. I'm so excited about everything that's out there for us, and I want to get started. So thank you so much for that. I know our audience is excited. I'm personally excited. I can see it radiating through Dee Dee, so I know she's excited as well.
Yes. And Karen, honestly, that was one of the reasons why I said, wow, Karen, you have to come on and really speak about this, because evidently, as you shared, Stephanie, that this is not something that is readily available as an alternative to really taking care of ourselves and really understanding why we operate the way we do. Mm-hmm. And unless we get to see like the barriers or the beliefs and the stories that we tell ourselves, we don't get to do the better work or the work that we get to do in the world. So yeah, like 100%. I have heard about human design and of course quantum physics separately, but now really hearing it from you, Karen, in that way, I said, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And this is the way you were able to really articulate and explain it was super simple. Like I understood everything you said, and I was just like, but don't ask me to repeat it. No.
You made quantum physics conversational. You turned it into layman's terms, which I think so many people, like I was saying, are scared of. So, now it's something that's more exciting and rather than intimidating to dive into.
Yeah. Well, I just want to add one last little piece here. I do think we want to make the process of creating it very complicated. And when we say, your thoughts create your reality, a lot of people really poo-poo that because they're like, well, yeah, that's just thinking. And we live in a very tangible material world that oftentimes associates hard work with success. And I think the beauty of understanding the science behind it really starts to illuminate how simple it could be to change your life. And sitting where we are right now at this time on the planet with so much divisiveness and so much transmission of news that if you're paying attention could potentially be rather disturbing, and seem somewhat hopeless, I think what we see in understanding the importance of narrative and what we put into our filter, if you will, as we interface between our human story and the quantum field, is that we could actually very easily, with enough, critical mass and the right kind of thinking, very easily actually change our experience of our reality. And so, to me, the elegant solution to the challenges facing humanity is right here. It's right here in front of us. And for us to really see it and draw it into our experience, we have to really start first by telling a story that connects us each individually to the power of possibility and the power of healing. And then take that story that is our unique individual story and marry it with each other's stories so that we can begin to tell a different story, not only about who we are individually, but who we are as a species on the planet. So,
yeah. Fascinating. Well, thank you so much, Karen, for your time, your knowledge, and just your positivity and your love and passion. It came through, and just your sharing and what it is that you do. You've been at this for 22 years, and you were called to it from your story. So you're really meant to do what you're doing. So thank you so much. I'm so honored that our paths have crossed, and really thank you truly for what you do and who that you are, and sharing it with the rest of the world and the rest of us.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.